both Jamie and Alex, you both referred to at different points standards or criteria that your organizations use to assess whether an organization's ready to grow, and I wondered if you could share with us what those criteria are. And then the second question relates to going back to this notion that, Lisa, you brought up a lot of this notion of personal giving and how that comes from whether who's asked, and I just wondered for any of you about how do you shift the paradigm towards free-flowing capital market based on social impact and results from that just sort of, and Alex, you talked a little about getting the early adopters, but what do you see needing to happen in order to get from sort of this personal fragmented sense to this free-flowing exchange?
You know, for us, it's just very specific to what we're looking for, but you know, we're looking for a track record, first of all. So when I think about, in our lexicon, early stage, you know, our smallest organization is a $5 million a year organization. So by most people's standards of early stage, that's pretty developed. So, but to be growth ready for us, it means that you really have to have really shown that the model works, and if possible with really serious research in a random control trial setting, or at least in a really good comparative setting, so that there's, you know, you just have better confidence that the results are getting are helping young people transition effectively. So that's actually the biggest thing we are looking for and encouraging our organizations to try to proof of concept before they really grow it out. And then it's, you know, sort of all the things you'd think about. You've got to have a board that's ready to take the mantle of really taking this organization to another level. You've got to really have, and we are doing a lot more of this, not perfectly because it's very hard to find kind of the perfect models and systems for doing this, but really projecting out long term what your economic model or economic engine for growth will be. So in the early years, we sort of supported a strategy plan and kind of a wing in the prayer. You know, they'd map out, we're going to draw down, you know, 5 million from private individuals and 5 million from government, and we sort of said, yeah, great, go do it. You know, you're an entrepreneur, you can do it. And now we're just getting much more deep into really doing an analysis to say, you know, what is an intervention that costs $10,000 a year that's helping kids who've been involved in the justice system get jobs and keep them. Like, how is that really going to scale, and where are the pots of money going to come from, and what has to happen over the next 5 years to prove that, you know, those dollars will flow? What are the public funders requiring in terms of the evidence base, let alone what we're requiring? What is sort of the sector requiring? Because we're also not pushing people to do random control trials if their major government funding sources say, you know, we don't want to see RCT results. We're fine, you know, with just good performance outcomes. So it's also what the standard is in the sector. Anyway, you kind of fold that all into sort of the plan for how to scale this up.
Yeah, the other things I would add to that, we probably have a slightly lower threshold, but maybe not entirely. We don't require a randomized controlled study, but certainly third-party evaluation of their efficacy, of their outcomes, their results. You compare it to other like organizations, and there are some very high-quality firms out there that do those evaluation studies, but it's got to be third-party, you know, got to be solid. That they've shown that they work in multiple locations. It's not just in, you know, a few, so that the model is transferable. You know that it works in a lot of different settings. They know what aspects of their intervention, their program, create the outcomes. Why? Because cookie-cutter franchising in the not-for-profit sector is much more difficult than it is in the for-profit sector. So McDonald's has this sort of set cookie-cutter, right? But in the not-for-profit sector, often you enable and allow customization of the programs locally for lots of different reasons. But you have to know which aspects you have to maintain and keep constant to recreate the outcomes. So does the organization really understand what are the key factors in it? Do they have standardized processes? Is it written down? Is it followed? Do they have quality control systems? Are they collecting common data from their sites so that they know that they work? It'd be great, not, you know, they don't all have this. Intervention strategies when sites and affiliates are underperforming. right? They don't have a lot of money for that, so that's part of what a lot of the growth, capital goes to, is improving their quality control systems. Is there market demand? Is there evidence of market demand for their program? Do they have a standardized new market entry process? And these are all things that we've now laid out in a due diligence report, so investors can say, oh yeah, I should be looking at these things. And these things we were all taught, so it's not as if we came up with. Clearly, financial sustainability is a huge, huge piece. So do they really have, as Jamie said, it's a model where you have a confidence, and they've already shown that if they get to triple the size, that their national office can be sustainable, et cetera. And there are varieties of ways you can have that financial sustainability, but you need it. Of course, you have to have a strong organization, strong leaders, and that kind of thing. In terms of the second question, yeah, go ahead, Lisa. You take the answer.
Oh, sure.
You take the second question.
Yeah, no, yeah, sure. Okay, so the second question. 3 random sets of thoughts here. One is, not to be doom and gloom, but the reality, I think, is that forever and a day we've had individual giving that is largely give back giving. If you look at individuals, period, it's faith-based, right? So you've got faith-based and alma maters and hospitals that helped my sick child. There's this kind of giving back kind of piece that is never going to change and shouldn't change, probably, right? And then you've got another piece that's all about social giving, around, and I mean it from, my friends, and, I'm on the board and so on, again, kind of probably pitch more toward elite institutions. And then, if you kind of go beyond that, your typical first step is probably going to be direct services in your own backyard. So it might be more the Boys and Girls Club locally that, you care about, that's in the poor part of your community, or so on. So I don't think we're shifting that. I think there is this parallel amazing effort that's happening, that's needed, that's useful, that, should be happening, but there is that sort of core reality. Okay, second disparate thought is a lot of the big boy foundation funding that's out there is really saying, foundations are a drop in the bucket. What are we doing here? It's all about public funding streams, and that really what we need to be doing is this policy piece to try to get the safety net, to try to get, oh my God, there's a new administration, there's no money, but there's a new administration, to try to get more safety net kinds of services and so on and so forth. So I think rightly so, there's a lot of energy, focused around increasing and improving those funding streams that are going to, outweigh a lot of some of this. And then the last kind of disparate piece, I would say, is that, again, like, the whole My Barack Obama and all the people who raised money from that in little dribs and drabs that added up to millions, or you've got Kiva that just kind of went, of course you got to get on Oprah, to make all this stuff happen. But there is this whole, internet populist piece, and I think that some of this great work that's come up that is pitched at big foundations or ultra high net worth people, maybe there's a next generation of it that's more populist that can actually, the random person who's deciding between, the direct mail City Meals on Wheels that came versus this cool internet site that has all these outcomes and things that I understand that's better than the ones that exist now, which basically say, give all your money to those that spend no money on infrastructure. Oh my God, 92 cents. Like if you're going to have ones that are, more attuned with reality, then we can fund some individual dollars that can add up there. So just another.